everybody, thanks for watching. Just a quick reminder, books are still being shipped out. We didn't forget anybody. We're going to be sending you guys tracking numbers for anybody who ordered books. But we got you guys as always, and I appreciate the patience and support. Also, yeah, a lot of you guys hit me up about the Never Pay Again sale. I know a lot of people missed it, the 24-hour sale. Put it back up there, and I actually reduced the price. It's 24 hours only. Make sure you guys take advantage of this. It will not happen again. I understand a lot of people going through stuff and dealing with issues. This is a lot of information. It's a lot of work, years of work for you guys who've been following me to put it out for this price. But I understand, people dealing with issues, and take advantage of it while it's at this price. It won't happen again. 24 hours. I'll leave it up probably a little bit longer, but you guys have to at least Sunday to take advantage of that sale. And yeah, it'll get you access. And if you are doing the $7.99 a month, that will cancel it out. You get one payment right here. You got a shot to knock it all out and be done. I mean, I can't make it any easier than this. Lifetime membership, access, the whole nine. You'll get the download link. I can't make it any easier than this. So you want to take advantage of it, take advantage of it. It's not going to happen again, ever again at this price. And I got a lot of the emails. I understand people dealing with issues. This has never been about money. So this is why I do this for you guys. So don't insult me. Take advantage of it while it's available. So appreciate the support. So now I want to get into this video. We're still in Saturn retrograde until October, and it's a lot happening if you guys are keeping up with Saturn and keeping up what's going on out there, based on, what we can measure and what, if you're into astrology. But it's going to be a Saturn Satan Part 7. It's going to be on Merkabah Academy. If you are a lifetime member or Never Pay Again member, it will be out this week. But there's so much going on with Saturn, so much new information and really old information. So we're going to get into a Saturn Satan Part 7 that we're going to put out on Merkabah Academy. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, we're still in retrograde with Saturn. And I talked about before how, this is karma season. If you doing any shit bad, if you got any bad intentions, now it's not the time. Now it's not the time to be doing anything stupid, because this is karma season. This is the time where you can get a lot done. This is where they have to make everything seem, evil. This is what it's about. Because if you understood the power of it, you wouldn't be scared of it. So, we got into my Saturn Satan series, and, 6 videos on that. It's a lot of information, but the connection with Saturn and Satan, and understanding that, connection with Kronos and Osiris and how all this stuff goes together, it's important to understand, because a lot of people are not going to figure it out. So, for those of you, we talked about this, who had questions, you got to understand one. You have the Old Testament, you got the New Testament, right? So when you really understand, the Old Testament is the worship of Saturn. And I got into this in previous videos. It's the worship of Saturn. This is why we get into the whole Judaism and, the black robes. When you go back to Syriac Orthodox Christianity, remember, before Islam, they was wearing the black robes. It's what it's about. It represents Saturn. It's what the alchemists call the dark sun, which is Saturn. So we got into this information, and you got to understand that Old Testament, Saturn, New Testament, our sun. So Saturn was called the dark sun because it's believed to have been a sun or something like a sun, either a dwarf sun. It goes back so far. And remember, I talked about how Earth used to be, Velikovsky and a lot of other researchers believe that Earth used to be a satellite of Saturn. And the planet Titan is like Earth. And talked about the whole moons of Saturn and how it can't be a coincidence that Iapetus looks just like the Death Star, which is the moon in Star Wars. And then we get into that whole, situation with Star Wars and Jedi, how it relates to Osiris, which we'll talk about in a second. But you need to understand that, how this is all in big relationship to each other. And it's not a coincidence, and so much has happened now. It's fitting for what's to come to be happening around now, since we are in retrograde with Saturn. And I mean, it's financial shit, banking stuff in your life, stuff that's going to come back on you. If you're having karmic issues, this is now. This is because of now. So it would be a good thing for you to tie up any loose ends. I don't mean go whack nobody, not like that. But tie up any issues that could be coming back to you. We got into this with understanding astrology with the zodiac, and there are consequences. And this is one of the reasons why we've seen Saturn worship all over the world, but it's not as we recognize it, and that's the problem. We got to go back to how it was shown or how they seen it back then. So I showed you guys throughout the series so many ancient depictions of two suns. And a lot of people don't understand when you go back and look at all those ancient drawings, especially we find them in the Middle East, there's always two suns, and it's like, what is this other image? Looks like a star, and that's Saturn. So when we go back and we look at the worship from back then and what they was talking about, us now believing they're talking about our sun in the sky, they were always talking about Saturn. That was the business back then. That's what they were worshiping back then. And it's where we go and look in the Old Testament. The Old Testament is Saturn worship. Everybody who they're going and killing the Israelites, they're worshiping Saturn, Moloch, Saturn, Remphian, Saturn. This is all in the Bible, and it's giving you that understanding. So when he said you shall worship no other gods. So think about it as we talk about us conscious people, the sun being God. What would be the other God? Saturn. 2, the other God. No gods before me. Understand? So you got to understand that breakdown on what it's speaking to. So you have the dark sun, Saturn, Satan, but it's trying to make this dualistic connection esoterically. So you have the dark Lord, Satan, the dark Lord, the dark sun. And then you have, Jesus is the light of the world, which we know is the sun. And understanding this connection is one of the reasons why they had the temptation between, Satan and Jesus in the Bible to kind of further give you understanding about what it's talking about. And this has to do with the, reptilian lower brain and all that, which we'll get into. But it's deep stuff. So, for the Christians who I just got finished talking to, we got into this, and, you guys are scared of Satan and you don't understand its connection. It's very esoteric. And it's why I tell Christians, you're doing yourself a disservice by not understanding this stuff. And same thing for a lot of conscious people that may be scared. I told you, the thing that broke me out finally out of Christianity was studying Satan, studying the scary stuff. And then you see, how it all fits and how, it applies to, all of this Satan stuff. But when we go back and we look at, the ancient world, and we see, Shamash, and we see that image, of Saturn. That's Saturn there. And a lot of people, again, we see a star, we automatically think sun. It's talking about Saturn. But you start going through the Old Testament and you look at, the worship of Moloch and everything that it's talking about, it's always going back to Saturn. It says, this is Acts 7:43. Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphian, figures which ye made to worship them, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. So you just got to break that down. And then we're talking about, star, your God, and then you have to look at what's being said, So I talked about this before. When you got to understand when it's saying, I am the Lord, your God, who is it talking to? And then he's saying, no, that's your God, Remphian. So what's going on here? So then when you look deeper, it's like, well, wait a minute. It seems as if the Jews is worshiping this same God. So is it, if you want to get deep into it, is it that you have a sect of Jews who over the years, because this is what they want you to believe, who over the years stuck with this belief and they got distorted in Babylon. You have the Babylonian Talmud and it got distorted. And we have this so-called worship that's supposed to be Judaism, but is really, satanic. It's something to kind of give you a distraction, a segue away from the truth. Because if you really get deep into Judaism, it's kind of split as well. And we have the mystic Jews, which is where, my name comes from. It's Merkabah, the real Merkabah, I call myself, when you understand what that's really about, which, we are the real Merkabah. We are the Merkabah, you understand. And it's trying to break away from this understanding to get you lost for a reason. So when you look at, Revelations, and it's saying, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship at thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. And this is one of the things that have the black Hebrews thinking that, well, God is going to get the white man in the end, and y'all going to be worshiping at our feet. Y'all going to become slaves. It's one of the verses that does that. But see, they're confused as well because they don't understand what this is esoterically, because you do yourself a disservice if you don't go dig into all this information, if you don't go look it up and research and see what it's talk about esoterically. So Saturn is known as the black square. We know the Jews wear the tefillin, which is a black square. They wear, their foreheads. We know about the Kaaba and Mecca, where we have the Muslims walk around it. And then it's just understanding how that corresponds with the planet Saturn itself. When it's saying you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Rumphian, this is what it's talking about. And this is what they saw. So you go back to the image with Shamash, and then you see the star. This is what it's talking about. This is Saturn. This is what it's referring to. And you can go back and look, from the planet, from Earth. It's how they seen it back then. It's how it showed up. And we see the depiction in many different places. We don't know what changed to make it, the way that it is. But we know there's planetary movement, and sometimes movements, we don't see them for thousands of years. But this is what they saw back then. And this is where the worship went to for a reason. So everything in the ancient world is pointing, towards this area with, Saturn, Sirius. You go back and look through history traditionally, and we talk about thousands of years, hundreds of years, that when we get these planetary alignments along with these retrogrades, and especially with Saturn, stuff usually happens. And we're seeing stuff now. We're going to get into, I don't want to even get into it, but say it here. But more stuff coming on what's happening. But this is stuff that when we see happen, we have major planetary events, as I talked about in our previous videos. Stuff happens with the world. Things change, major changes, big things. Going back to the Saturn Satan series, we got into understanding, Osiris, understanding the correspondence with Satan and how it, corresponds to us. And as I said, you have, the Dark Lord, you have the Lord, you have this, Old Testament God who many would consider evil. And it's trying to give you that understanding of this Dark Lord, the Black Sun, this evil, this dualistic God of Saturn, which is Satan. And then you have the Sun and God, and why everything is so crazy in the Old Testament and the New Testament as well, as far as why, God just simply don't destroy this dude. It's because it's him. It's part of you, part of us. And understanding that, and then understanding this two sun worship and why they're more gravitating towards the Saturn aspect is because it's dealing with material. And that's what this is all about. So I showed you guys in the video about, all of the corporations, the companies that manufacture stuff that we use, products, money, what have you, having the Saturn logo. We have those rockets that's going to Saturn, the Saturn V, same ones that went to Mars for Saturn rockets. And it's dealing with us. It has everything to do with us. It's a lot more to get into with Saturn, which I got into. But it's understanding this materialistic relationship we have with that planet and with these esoteric things like Satan and Osiris and what it all means. So talked about, Kundalini energy and understanding, opening the third eye, how all this goes together. It's not just a coincidence, the 666 relationship with Saturn and us. It's trying to give you that understanding of the representation of those numbers and how they correspond to us. So people think we worship Osiris. As I said, they think we chose Osiris and these Egyptian gods to worship over the biblical, prophets or what have you, and what all this stuff, means. It's not hard to break this stuff down and see it's all astrology. It's not hard to see it. So I got into Jesus representing the sun on the cross of the zodiac. It's there. People just want to ignore it. The 12 disciples that follow Jesus represent the 12 signs of the zodiac. Plain and simple. He's telling them to follow me. So you're following the sun. Plain and that's a hint right there. So what happens when we start following the movement? We start following the movement of the planets, the sun, which the signs of the zodiac will represent, of course, planetary bodies. So what is this? It's talking to everybody. It's Jesus saying to you, follow me. And the only way is going to be through me. I'm the way. So this is something that they've taken from the ancient world that we've seen. And it's esoteric in so many different ways. So the big connection, you had a lot of people coming out, and this is what people talking about lately with Osiris and Saturn. And then you just got to understand the many different representations of Satan. And same thing with Osiris. I showed you guys how Osiris also also represents the bull. And this is what we have with Moloch. You have the bull, then you have the bull calf, and we see this in so many different ancient civilizations. And then, it's not a coincidence that you had Satan being shown with the two horns. And then you also have Satan as a serpent.